Yes, that fellow there is me, Roger Moore, impersonating James Bond. Bond's the name and spying's the game. This is the second time in the Bond films that I did that there was a reference to the fact that Bond had been married before. That this was really a throwback to George Lazenby's Bond, in which Mrs. Bond was killed, Diana Rigg. This is the famous church in Gray's Elegy, which is in Stoke Poges. During these commentaries, which I would rather look upon as a conversation rather than a commentary, a one-sided conversation because you can't answer back, but it's not so much sort of what actually happened during the shooting of the film in a chronological order, because I quite honestly do not remember after this number of years that have passed since I made Bond. But more or less it's thoughts that come to mind while I'm watching the videos and thoughts about other films that I made and people I knew. That's a very ominous sign for Bond. To Bond's past, Blofeld. He was not called Blofeld in this.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bond. Don't concern yourself with the pilot. One of my
I don't think I was conscious of any decision to get away from where Bond had gone in Moonraker and to make it a more serious Bond. It was just another Bond with John Glenn directing, who had directed Second Unit Sequence and being editor up to now. I, having had a lot of experience with John Glenn, knew him quite well, having had him as second unit director on a number of films.
Think twice, 007. It's a long way down.
All this area that we are shooting over no longer exists. It became the rather famous or infamous Millennium Dome.
I've looked forward to this moment, Mr. Bond. I intend to enjoy it to the full.
This sequence, we went through many ideas for what the dialogue should be.
Goodbye,
You know, this was a line of Cubby's that comes up about the delicatessen. I'll buy you a delicatessen. I want to make a deal. And I think I must have done about 6 versions of lines of dropping Blofeld, who was not called Blofeld, down the chimney stack.
You're fading from my picture, Mr. Bond. But the end cannot be far away.
don't know who played the cat, but I think I had her in the Spice Girls movie, or a distant relative. In the Spice Girls movie, I played a sort of a send-up of the Bond, of the Blofeld character, as the manager of the Spice Girls, replete with white cat on my lap, and a pig.
Oh, you want to get up? Mr. Bond!
We went to New York for the opening of this film, the American premiere, and of course the pre-opening publicity. And Cubby said, you know, Sheena Easton's going to be, or Jerry Drew said Sheena Easton's going to be on one of the talk shows in the morning. And we watched, and she spoke about everything except doing the Bond song. Cubby was very upset. I see Willie Pogner's name there on the titles again. He's one of the great people with skiing sequences in Bond. Brilliant, brilliant director and handler of camera. It's the first time in any of the Bond films that the image of the singer was on screen. And I think it was because Maurice Binder had a soft spot for her. And this, of course, was Bill Conti's first Bond. Very fine musician.
But you won't need to read between the
I was amazed at the creativity of Maurice Binder. And of course, he always said it was a running gag with Cubby, because Maurice Binder said he felt that he should be on every occasion so he could get the feeling of where the film was going. It's wonderful today for me to see Barbara Broccoli's name as producer, along with Michael Wilson. Because when I started Bond, she was just a very young girl. She came on the set. She sometimes might have been there for a few days, but what she was doing was that she was learning. She was learning her father's craft, and I think she learned it very well. I think Cubby, if he were alive today, would be exceedingly proud of her. And I'm sure that he's looking down and smiling now.
Afternoon. How's it looking topside?
Beautiful day. Just bringing the nets in.
Fresh for supper.
This actor, Peter Fontaine, lived in Hollywood for a number of years. We were quite good friends.
Afternoon, sir.
Oh, hello, Matt.
My watch.
I'm one of those actors who comes to work. I've read the script, but I'm not averse to having a change thrown at me at the last moment. I believe that you've got to say the lines and hit the marks and get the day's work in, and I was never really conscious that they were trying to get away from more or less the jokes that we had had in the two previous films. But I see from the beginning of this that it has a far more serious note.
Secure operation room! Destruct ATAC system!
That is where we show the period when the film was made, when you see that a computer tape is that big. Today that would be one tiny microchip, all that equipment.
Yes?
First seal order Vice Admiral here, sir.
Send them in.
Shocking news, Minister. I'm afraid we've lost our electronic surveillance ship, the St. George's, sir.
We had a routine message at 1600 hours yesterday.
This was the first film after Bernie Lee's departure. We didn't have
Not
M.
deep enough, I'm afraid.
Yes, Comrade Secretary. Your father...
This sequence, of course, is a recreation of the set we had for Walter Gotell in The Spy Who Loved Me. And Eva Rupastaya is back again as Rublevich.
Comrade, there will be no direct involvement, but if it comes on the market, we should not lose such a remarkable opportunity. With that in mind, I've already contacted our usual friend in Greece.
The island of Corfu. I'd been to Greece before making this film, but I'd never been to Corfu. Most beautiful island. Jack Hedley, a good English actor I worked with a number of times, directed him in some episodes of The Saint. This location was absolutely magic because every morning our hotel was at the other end, and I had a speedboat that I'd take Cubby with me, and we would drive to this location. And some mornings the Mediterranean was covered with one of those, what I call cotton wool skies, where there was no horizon, there was just this mist. And I would say that you must remember this was in the late 70s, early 80s when we made this. And I say, Cubby, I think we're going in this direction. He says, you can't go in that direction. You can't go in that direction. That's Albania. Go close, they'll start shooting us. I said, I don't think I've got a sign that says, I'm James Bond on the boat.
Thank you, darling.
Carol Bouquet, who actually came to visit the Bond set when we were making Moonraker. Beautiful girl. I know that today she owns a couple of restaurants, I think, in Paris with Gérard Depardieu.
I'll lend a hand if you want. Darling, it's beautiful. Thank you. That's for you. Pistachios for Max.
I saw Carol Paul a couple of times in Cannes during festivals, and another time I saw her in Lyon at the Interpol headquarters. She was talking on behalf of children with problems. My old friend Lois Maxwell.
James,
Moneypenny, a feast for my eyes.
what about the rest of you?
Well, I was going to get around to that.
Well, you'd better go in. M's on leave, and the minister's arrived here with the chief of staff and wants to see you immediately.
I'll be right back.
I can hardly wait. Oh, haven't you forgotten something?
Oh, well, as M's away.
We're now on my friend Jimmy Villiers. Jimmy Villiers, who I believe at the time that he did this film was 17th in line to the throne. Very funny actor. And he was a great friend of another actor called Ronald Fraser. And Ronald Fraser was appearing at the Royal Court Theatre. I forget the play, maybe The Gingerbread Man or something. But anyway, one matinee, he had been out to lunch with Jimmy Villiers, and Jimmy Villiers came to see the play in the afternoon, the matinee, and when Ronnie finished his first monologue at the end of the first act, there was a bravo and loud applause from the front from Jimmy Villiers. Bravo, Ronnie. Well done, Ronnie. Well done. Ronnie says, did you stop? I said, did you like that, Jimmy? He said, yes. He said, shall I do it again? He said, yes. And the audience sat there absolutely dumbfounded as these two actors went through the performance again.
And apply the necessary pressure to find out who hired him.
The magic of motion pictures, we're in Corfu, although we're supposed to be in Spain. I made a two-part Saint episode, which was, I don't know, like Simon Templar meets the Mafia or something. We shot on the island of Malta for Sicily. And we had said, you know, that when we have a premiere of this, we will have it in Malta for a charity, and it just happened to be that Prince Philip was also visiting the island, and we sort of involved in various openings with him. And then we had this charity screening of a two-part Saint film, which really was for television. We shouldn't have been on a screen at all. But the audience got quite hysterical because they knew the territory, and they saw a car going left to right being chased by another car going right to left, and they knew that it was already in the wrong location, that then sequence of, but people who don't know the island don't know where you're shooting. The usual formula of a lot of pretty girls around the swimming pool. When Timothy was doing Bond, and I would be visiting Cubby at his house in Beverly Hills, and Timothy very often was there, so we spent some amusing times together.
A Walter PPK, standard issue British Secret Service. License to kill or be killed. Take him away.
Excuse me.
I suppose that should have given me a clue as that this wasn't the normal Bond, the fact that he took an umbrella and used it as a parachute instead of having some wonderful gadget from Q to escape with.
Whoever you are, you outstayed your welcome. Come on.
This is another slight departure for Bond because he does arrive in a car, a rather expensive Lotus Esprit that has all the gadgets imaginable that Bond would have on a car. But it blows to pieces when somebody tries to get into it.
Well,
It was Bob Simmons breaking into the Lotus. So he takes Molina's car, which is a Citroën 2 Chevaux, which is not the car that you would use for an escape.
who are you?
Carol Bouquet is a very good actress and has a wonderful screen presence, I think. She's got these smouldering eyes. I don't think in this part she had a chance to show some other facets of her personality. You just saw it in one tiny sequence where she smiled. It was just that one, and she is radiant. She lights up. The Obscure Object of Desire, the Louis Buñuel film that she was in, which was the first time I think people really became aware of her.
Take the low road. Not that low.
That's really the first humour in the film, or apart from dropping the man who's not called Blofeld down the chimney stack.
You don't mind if I drive, do you?
Now we know that we're in for a proper chase because Bond has taken over the wheel.
Por favor, employer.
It's rather strange that the scales didn't get knocked over.
Go backwards, forwards, quickly.
I'll say the stunt driving is very good. Again, more wonderful car stunts, and all arranged by Remy Julien. Remy Julien and his team, I think, are some of the best in the world for car stunts. Remy Julien did the Italian job, the stunt driving in that, which was quite brilliant. Michael Caine movie. And John Glenn worked on that as well. Some of these shots, being in the car, were done because it was impossible to have somebody hand holding a camera on the front of the car. We were actually on a flatbed behind another truck, being whipped around. That's what I like about making movies. You have to rely on other people when it comes to a question of your life.
Oh, by the way, we haven't been properly introduced, Melina. My name is Bond. James Bond.
I think the question about this scene is, did Bond or didn't he? The conversation sort of is rather serious and rather heavy-handed with her. You know, the Greeks, or the Chinese say that before setting up on revenge, first you dig 2 graves, sort of setting up that she might be biting off more than she can chew, and he is being rather avuncular with her. So I don't think he did. At least I don't remember doing it.
You first dig 2 graves.
I don't expect
It's not dissimilar to the dialogue or the scene with Barbara Bach in The Spy Who Loved Me.
always avenge their loved ones. I must
In fact, it reminds me a little of that scene. You remember where she says, "You've killed my fiancée."
You were meant to question Gonzales, not let Miss Havelock perforate him.
I quite agree, sir.
We'll have to tell the Prime Minister Operation Undertow is dead in the water. She'll have our guts for garters.
Of course, now there's a reference to the fact that our Prime Minister was a lady, Margaret Thatcher. Prime Minister will have your guts for garters.
That was for Havelock's murder. Then there is still a glimmer of hope.
I don't follow.
If we could identify that someone...
Why don't you try the identigraph?
Yes, sir.
Well, get cracking, 007.
Minister?
Jeremy Bullock, Q's assistant with his arm in a cast, went on to great success after this, without ever showing his face. He was behind a mask, and he was in Star Wars, and he now goes to all sorts of conventions, signing, and is famous.
Stinging in the rain.
That's not funny, 007.
I see you managed to get the Lotus back together again.
I disregard these jibes about our equipment, 007. I don't suppose you find it funny in the field.
Indeed, I don't.
I hope you all got that little joke, inside joke. Nobody does it better.
Now,
This identiograph actually came from Goldfinger, but not the film Goldfinger. It was in the book, and it was Richard Maybaum and Michael Wilson, when they're writing, said, let's go back and find things from the old Bonds, the original Bonds. We want to get that flavor.
you wish to identify, and I'll program the information.
Male Caucasian. Late 30s. Hair fine, light brown. That's it. Parted in the middle.
Here, wait a minute. Right.
Eyes. A little smaller. Blue.
This looks rather childish when you think of today's technology.
Now, nose. A nose, not a banana, Q.
I'm sorry.
Stop. Lips fuller.
Whoops.
No. Mouth wider. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. You can go. I'll lock up.
I reckon we're almost there, Q, apart from glasses. Steel rimmed.
Beginning to look suspiciously like Elton John.
Octagonal.
That's him. That's our man.
Right. I'll try and get a match.
I know who that is. That's Michael Gothard.
Yes?
Sir, the man we want is Emile Leopold Locke, an enforcer in the Brussels underworld.
Well, it wasn't that I was working with a new team, because all of them had been connected with Bond before.
Escaped from Namur prison by strangling his psychiatrist.
As I often said, it was always working in a family, and so you have a wedding, and you have a couple of cousins, distant cousins you haven't seen for some time, that come along, but they're still part of the family.
Yes, sir.
And 007, try not to muck it up again.
I'll do my best, sir. I'll leave you to lock up. Let me out, will you?
Here we are in Cortina d'Ampezzo. Cortina d'Ampezzo was the location for the original Pink Panther. It was also very cold. This was my first experience in Cortina. Because at the time that I made this, I was living in Gstaad in Switzerland. One day Blake came over to see me, Blake Edwards and Julie Andrews. Blake being the producer and the writer of Pink Panther. And he said, we've got an idea for doing another Panther, and we'd like you to be Clouseau. I said, you've got to be joking. He said, no, the idea is, and then he laid out the idea that Clouseau has been involved in robbing the Pink Panther and is now shacked up with Joe Lumley and has had surgery to disguise himself. So all through the film, he is seen with bandages on. Something has happened in France, and it is decided by the president that Clouseau must be found. The man that got up and came over with hat and glasses is really Pink Panther. When he finally confronts him, at this point, the Pink Panther has had the bandages removed, and he is me, he is Roger Moore. But he's done nothing about his voice, so he is still, you're smoking, you know I'm smoking the cigarette from the wrong end. He says, for a very good reason. He says, exactly, for a very good reason. And falls over the back of the chair, and it's the usual clowning of Clouseau. I thought, yeah, it's all right. But then I had the ex-wife and the widow saying, this is absolutely terrible. Blake is talking about doing a Pink Panther. Well, they weren't going to use any of the material of Peter, but I couldn't tell them. And thank goodness I was away from Gstaad, where we eventually made it to Pinewood. Lynn Holly Johnson. Wonderful skater.
Signor Cristato.
Ah. Christatos. Aris Christatos.
Bond, James Bond.
Would you care to
Julian Glover.
That's a very good idea, thank you.
Well, gentlemen.
The villain of our piece is a very fine actor. I saw him in a production a few months ago in London of The Dresser, and he was quite wonderful. At the same time as he did this, he had been in Star Wars and in Indiana Jones. Bond, the 3 top action movies.
Will be the greatest in my life. Phoebe!
are some new admirers for you. Mr. Bond, Mr. Ferrara, Bibi Dahl. And her coach, Jacoba Brink. Once a word...
Jacoba Brink, yes, of course, she's played by Jill Bennett, who was at RADA with me, had been a friend for many, many years. Very good actress, Jill Bennett. She, funny enough, she was in a film for Cubby years and years before Hell Below Zero with Alan Ladd, one of the Warwick films that Cubby and Irving Allen did. And she went to the first day's rushes, and Irving Allen said to her, "What are you going to do about your face?" What a depression it put her in. She was very young then, and of course the leading lady was Joan Tetzel, who I understudied in The Little Hut for 18 months, understudying David Tomlinson and Geoffrey Toone. Little Hut was Robert Morley, Joan Tetzel and David Tomlinson at the Lyric Theatre.
Once we were like brothers. Now he hates me. We fought together in the Greek resistance and against the communists. After that, he took a different path.
Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Mustatis.
My pleasure.
That is not my the fella has halitosis look. That is, it is damn cold up here, and I want to get down in the warm and have a large Jack Daniels.
What do you think, Luigi? Does this Dove, Colombo, have the resources to mount a salvage operation?
Oh, definitely. He runs a fleet of intercoastal freighters in the Aegean. I ring my office in Milan. They may have more on him.
Now, when we shot this, they'd lost a lot of snow in Cortina, and the snow wasn't in the main street at all. We had to have trucks coming down the mountain bringing snow from up above to make it look like this. I'm quite sure there's no gun shop in the main square in Cortina, but that's the license of movies.
Thank you. I'll take it. Deliver it to the Hotel Cristallo, please.
Oh, beg your pardon.
The girl behind the counter won a Playboy contest to be in this movie. Her name was Robin Young.
I'll pick them up later. Come on, quick. Send them to the funeral, will you? Hey, slow down. Now, would you mind telling me what the devil you're doing in Cortina?
Your telegram.
What telegram?
It said you found the man and to meet you here today.
I didn't send a telegram. Now, get in. The station, please.
Are we leaving?
Follow that sled. What a pity it's not one of those things.
Tell me what to do.
Il stazione, Pepperboy.
Si, signore. Via!
Looking at this today, I find it quite verbose for a Bond film.
He's here, isn't he? That's why you're here.
It is a different change of pace. I can remember when we were shooting, there were lines that I thought were very un-Bond.
Let me out. Driver, stop.
Vai avanti.
Presto.
I think that there was one line where I said it must have been, she was talking about her life as a child, and Bond says, oh, well, it must have been a very lonely life for a young girl. And I remember having a conversation with John Glenn and saying, I know writers must hate me because very often I stray away from the written word, the word that's being given to me on the page. because I feel I know the character I'm playing, and I want to make it comfortable for myself. I think it was Rafe Richardson who said, "There's no such thing as a bad line, just bad actors." So I guess I come under that category. I think this is where I might go into my room and find Lynn Holly Johnson. Or am I just a dirty old man? Bond is very, go home at once. Thank goodness.
Don't they have showers at the ice rink? How did you get in here?
One of the porters is a fan.
I was spoiled by the fact that I got paid very well for doing a job that I have loved. I've never met, actually, actors are fortunate people, because I've never met one who wasn't happy doing what he did and get paid for it. You're very lucky if you're successful at it, if you can fool all of the people all of the time, or most of the people some of the time, is great. But I enjoyed acting just as much when I was getting £9 a week in rep as I did when I was doing Bond.
Ah, shall we? Didn't you ever come up for air?
That's why I'll get the gold medal. Breath control.
Yes, well, you can't lose.
Beautiful skier, Lynn Holly Johnson. I look quite expert myself, thanks to Willie Bogner, who is skiing backwards, photographing me being dragged down on the back of a sled. I enjoy skiing.
There's Eric Kriegler.
He's German champion.
Isn't he beautiful?
You know something, BB, you're fickle.
I think one of the problems directors have had with me when I'm, familiar with the character as I was in television with The Saint or with Maverick or with Ivanhoe, that you do it, and you want to change the pace, and I know I can look at myself and I can see that I'm thinking, what gag can I put in here? I'd much rather break the crew up than say it straight.
Oh, BB, I'm afraid I have to leave you.
No, James, stay with me.
I have an appointment.
Well, will you come and say goodbye to me at the
I've been asked, what makes a good actor? I would say a good actor, you don't see the acting. If you see the acting, then it's not good acting. But I hate to pontificate about the art of acting because I've read too many of my critical notices. I was doubled in some of these ski sequences by two different stunt doubles, one being Pat Banter and the other John Eves. And John Eves was a Canadian acrobatic ski champion, world ski champion, is quite brilliant. He's the one that does the leap over the table and goes down the ski jump on ordinary skis. Great skier. Pat Banter married Tina Broccoli, Cubby's daughter, or one of Cubby's daughters. I'm glad to say that Willie Bogner has supplied from his company my clothes in this, and many of the ski suits I've worn since are by Bogner. He's probably the best of the ski clothes, sports clothes designers. The man on the right was a great friend of Cubby's, always to be found at the same gambling table. And Cubby would always have him on a location somewhere, sitting at a roulette table, or, as he is in this, standing next to me in the lift. He was the fellow who looks like a little tiny George Kennedy. This, of course, is the Olympic ski jump in Cortina d'Ampezzo.
Libero.
Now this is going to be the jump that John Eves goes off wearing normal skis, not jumping skis.
Guarda, c'è un pazzo qua.
A very difficult stunt, that. I think this is one of the best of the Bond chases, because it's a different type of chase. You know, the difference in this is that Bond has no gadgets, except skill and a couple of good doubles. Here's the old gag of knock 'em down. A lot of these skiers, you know, who were being extras for the day, they didn't know what they were letting themselves in for, with motorbikes tearing down and skiers out of control. Good stunt. There he is again. Last time we saw him was in Piazza San Marco. The second unit was being directed on this by Arthur Worcester. And this is the Olympic bobsleigh run. Quite extraordinary skiing from John Eaves, and also from Willie Bogner, who is actually skiing and photographing this. Amazing stunts. This brings back very uncomfortable memories, because when I become left alone on here, I'm faced with hockey players that are dead set on killing me. I volunteered to do part of the stunt myself, which was to throw myself into the wall of the ice rink. And something that I could normally do quite easily, because it's just an elbow tuck as you throw yourself forward and you go over. What I didn't take into account was that my jacket was shiny and the ice was slippery, and my elbow went out instead of under me, which put my shoulder out completely. And I was carted off to the hospital at about 1 in the morning, and x-rayed, and my arm was strapped up. And they said we could not go on shooting, not with me. And they obviously had a meeting the next day, Cubby and production supervisor, etc. And Cubby came to me and they said if they could get just a couple of shots with me, then the unit could wrap the following day, the first unit, and keep to schedule. Otherwise, they'd have to wait until I could take my arm, which could have been a week. So I agreed that I would have, they said the doctor would come and would give me a painkiller before we started the shoot, which would last a couple of hours. And he came to the hotel, and unfortunately in Cortina at that time they had a lot of power cuts. And just as he filled his syringe and started approaching me, the lights went. And so here am I with this doctor who I think is a maniac, about to stick a needle in me, and he can't see me. And I know that he is in the room and he's trying to stick this needle, and I'm saying, wait till the lights go, and wait till the lights go. Aspetta che ci sono luci. Anyway, the lights came on, I had the shot, and I went up. But as usual with filming, things take a little longer than they should anticipate. And I had to drive the ice, whatever they call them. And I had no idea how I did it. My arm was bound up afterwards, about 3 in the morning. And the next day I was driven back to Start. I remember that was an 8-hour drive. and every bump in the road went through my body. And the first scenes that we did a few days later in the studio, I was wearing a wetsuit. And try and pull a wetsuit over your head with a shoulder that's been dislocated. No, it was a very uncomfortable memories of that.
Thank you. Paracolor. I think you may need that.
She smiles for the first time. Back to the beautiful island of Corfu.
My father loves the view.
I remember doing this sequence and sort of discussing with John that it really was a very, very different type of Bond to what I'd done before. And I think we compromised and we arrived at what is on the screen, and I think it worked.
To tell the truth.
There's more romance than seduction, I think, in this Bond.
Try not to think about it now.
As far as romantic as Bond can be, although this did start off with Bond laying flowers on his wife's grave.
500 000 banco, monsieur. Qui fait banco? Banco, 4, s'il vous plaît.
Huit.
8. Et 9 la banque.
You're perspiring.
This is Cassandra Harris, who was married to Richard Harris's brother, and then she married Pierce Brosnan. Pierce at this time was not even, I don't think, making Remington steel. Guy Hamilton had actually directed Pierce Brosnan in the Mirror Cracked with Elizabeth Taylor. I know he had done that before he went on to Remington Steele.
Lucky night.
Cut.
Of course, practically every Bond has a gambling scene, which is, of course, where I met Cubby and Harry gambling. But I am a bad gambler, which is why I don't gamble today. I always had a sense of guilt about gambling and felt if I won, I had to stay and give it back. The trouble was I gave it back and a little more. Now I don't gamble. By the time I'd finished Bond, I'd stopped gambling. Gambling on the set with Cubby was quite enough. Getting up in the morning was a gamble at that point.
Aperitif, please.
Ouzo for me, please.
Ella.
En ouzo. En whiskey or rispago, paracolor. And to eat?
I'll have the preppers of prawns, sabra salad, and Bordetto.
Oh, an excellent choice. I'll have
In
a
real
sip.
life, people still think it's rather fun to have a martini ready for me. In fact, when I married Christina, my present wife, the pastor in Copenhagen that married us, and it was just the two of us and his assistant, who was the witness, and her husband, who was a lawyer, who drove us to the church. And we were just the only people there apart from three people who sang. And afterwards there was wine for the guests and 2 martinis for me and I. Very sweet.
Just tell me where he is.
Over there, with the woman in blue.
I like a martini, but I don't like a vodka martini. I like a gin martini. Occasionally, very occasionally. They're very dangerous.
We are perfectly safe. He will do nothing in his own place.
This was a different type of a Bond villain because he doesn't start off as a villain, or appear to be the villain. He is setting somebody else up as the villain. There's the fellow he's trying to set up. I found Chaim Topol. Topol I've met in London years before, when he starred as Tavia in Fiddler on the Roof. Quite a wonderful performance, and I'm delighted he went on to make the movie of it. In every scene, Chaim Topol had to eat pistachios. And when you do tracking shots in a film where they have tracking boards down and they roll over the camera to save putting down tracks, I drove attic as a camera operator, man, by sprinkling Chaim's shells on the boards. It was not popular.
Any way I please. Sit down. You're making a spectacle of yourself. Get out.
Nothing would please me more.
I think my favorite question in any interview is a live television program.
This may be an opportunity.
This may be a trap.
And the interviewer said to me, you were Ivanhoe and you did these films in Hollywood and you did The Alaskans and Maverick and You're the Saint. You must have been through an awful lot of leading ladies. I said, I think you can rephrase that. And he said, why? And I said, repeat, if you can, what you just said. And he got halfway through it. Oh my God. I think it's somewhere in the archives that and is produced of this terrible faux pas.
I'm the Countess Lisu von Schlaff.
My name is Bond. I'm a writer. I'm preparing a novel about Greek smugglers. Do you know any?
Smugglers? How would I know any smugglers?
Well, I would have thought.
That shows you that looks can deceive. She said I look like a gentleman. How do you think I got this part? You see, one of the few women in the world who doesn't know who Bond is. My name is Bond. I'm preparing a novel about Greek smugglers. I bought one of those cars. Rolls Royce. My business manager in England, I think it was when I was making Spy Who Loved Me, he said, you can afford to buy a Rolls Royce. I said, but I always avoided buying one. I thought it was just too flash to have a Rolls Royce. You should not. But when finally I was told, yes, well, why don't you? Why not? And so I did, and it was delivered. The same day that I was preparing to go home. My home wasn't far from Pinewood Studios at Denham, and it was my son's, I think he was 2 or 3 years old, and it was Christmas. And wardrobe and makeup got together, and they were going to make me up as Father Christmas, and I was padded, and Paul England, my makeup man, did the most wonderful beard and wig and everything else, and I got into the Rolls from Pinewood, and I stopped driving the Rolls for the first time, and I'm driving back to my house, and I had to stop at a traffic light, and I felt somebody alongside staring at me, and I thought, oh my God, I shouldn't have bought a Rolls Royce, now everybody's looking. And I realized they're looking at Father Christmas driving a Rolls Royce.
Did Columbo whisper to you?
That you're a spy, to find out more about you.
And have you?
Have I ever?
This sequence was shot the other side of the island of Corfu. I remember it was quite a long drive to get there. The side with sand.
When you're ready to leave, you can take my car.
That sounds like a dismissal. I was rather looking forward to breakfast.
And one of the villains in the car here went on to star as Ian Fleming, Charles Dance.
Liesel! Liesel, come back!
That's Charles Dance.
Get it.
Saved by the cavalry.
Goodbye, Countess. What the... Oh!
Not saved by the cavalry.
In and Daxi. Now, what should I do with you?
Topple's a very funny man. He has a great sense of humour. You can see that sparkle in his eye. I think a fine actor, good voice, wonderful singer. I thought he'd brilliant. If I were a rich man, marvelous, and also I believe a kibbutznik, somebody who was born in a kibbutz and raised in Israel, was a colonel in the army.
For him, not for me. I smuggle, yes, I smuggle gold, diamond, cigarettes, pistachio nuts, but no heroin.
I've not seen Heim, but the problem is I don't live in England. And the rare occasions, or the time, it's not rarely, but I go to England quite often. But my days are so limited, and I'm usually there on some business, usually UNICEF, and then have our children to see, and then I'm off. And so I very rarely have time for some of the old friends like Haim. I see Michael Caine more often, and Brian Forbes, who's a writer, director. Leslie Brickets, who's a writer, composer, lyricist. He did none of my Bond titles. And of course, he wrote Dr. Dolittle. In fact, when I was looking at that very tight shot of Caribouquet's eyes, I was reminded of Leslie's song that was written actually for Rex Harrison to sing to a seal. Look at those eyes, which is a beautiful love song. But you look at eyes and you say, look at those eyes. I never heard Bob Simmons sing, although I've been told that he did. My principal memory of Bob Simmons, apart from sort of working and having a lot of laughs with him, was that he would go back to London when we were filming in Paris on Moonraker, and he would come back on Monday mornings with a great pot of dripping, which for people who don't know what dripping is, it is sort of the fat that is dropped through a joint of meat or through through a turkey or a goose. And in German, it's called Ganzerschmalz when it's goose grease. And it's grease, and it is absolutely wonderful on bread or toast. Terrible for cholesterol. This was a very different type of ship for Bond to have a fight on, unlike the giant tanker containing the submarines in The Spy Who Loved Me. It's far more intimate. Nice Greek sailing ship. I remember when we were shooting a scene, there was a squib that caught toppled by the side of his eye, and like most head wounds, face wounds, a lot of blood. It wasn't as serious as it looked, thank goodness.
Santa Sproxton. Watch it.
You see, now this is a very different Bond. Somebody said, watch it, and they didn't cut to a Seiko.
Santos. Nikos.
JIM diving equipment for salvage.
Alec Mills had worked with as a camera operator, and I worked with him later when he was became a DOP. We had sort of running gags, which I usually did with the camera operator. I used to try and tape them to their camera store.
An old smuggler's trick. Cristados knows them all.
And Alec, when we were shooting Spy Who Loved Me, they had to do a handheld shot going up a torpedo tube, the point of view of a torpedo going up. And Alec would not go up the torpedo tube with the camera, the Ariflex, while I was still on the submarine. He was petrified that I'd slam the door shut and blast him out. And he was serious. So was I would have done it. Alec Mills, very rarely as an operator did he miss a shot. You never hear him say, I'd like to go again because I don't think I quite got it. He really anticipated everything. I did damage him once in the eye when he was hand-holding an Ariflex, and I threw something across the floor, and a chair, and it unfortunately hit the lens. But camera operators are sort of strange. They become remote. They're witnessing something, but they're not a part of it. And when something comes flying at the camera, they want to get the shot. They just hold it to their own cost. Oh dear, I remember those steps. I wouldn't like to do that today. In fact, I couldn't do that today. That became a favourite pose for all Bond stills. I remember a lot of discussion about this particular shot, that Bond just letting it go over. This was the hard edge they wanted to put on me. I think the old Bond, I would have let the pin go in it, which caused it to roll, and then just open my hands with a little shrug. Just the weight of the pin, not the kick. This was quite brilliantly done, because we, in actual fact, that is real underwater, but the close-ups were not underwater at all. They were putting the bubbles in afterwards. These bubbles are not real. Not real at the time, you know what I mean. I think it's quite extraordinary, the bit of cinematic craft, that it can be done. It was also very uncomfortable to do, because I had to wear a wetsuit, and this was after I had dislocated my shoulder. I'd actually split the collarbone and the clavicle. And so I had many, many weeks of discomfort.
Where did the St. George's sink?
Well, we can't be sure for certain. We know it was in this vicinity. Your father was using the temple as a front. For starters, killed your father because he didn't want him to find the St. George's before he did.
Christatos. How can I help?
Well, where did your father keep his records, his daily log?
Daily log, daily log. Father and he were pals for 30 years. He repeats everything.
I worked with some birds in my time. I remember at Palm Springs, Frank Sinatra and Barbara Sinatra had a parrot that never bit Barbara, but would go for everybody else.
I was the only one who could decipher it.
My aunt had a parrot, I remember, when I was a kid. My Aunt Amy. It reminds me, it was when my first bitter experience of learning not to tell the truth, but telling you the parrot story first. She had this parrot, it was called, whatever it was a male name, and everybody referred to it as he, until one day she laid an egg. But my aunt was my mother's elder sister, and she had dark hair. My mother was fairish haired. And one day at my aunt's, I was about 7 or 8, and I said, why doesn't Aunt Amy shave? I got a whack across here. I said, but she's got a moustache. Bang! I said, but she has a moustache. I learnt that you don't say that your aunt has a moustache, or any other lady for that matter, not as long as they can clump you around the ear.
184 feet. An oxygen helium.
Oh, yes, an oxygen helium mix. Bond is such a smart ass.
George's crew have destroyed the transmitter?
Only if they'd had the chance to set the explosive timer.
We have a visitor below.
The fact that I'm dressed in yellow has nothing to do with the colour of my backbone. Well, there are many things you can wear. You can either wear red, yellow, or green, or blue. And the yellow stands up very well against the dark blue of the seabed. I used to do scuba diving. I rather liked it. My first scuba diving was down at San Pedro, below Los Angeles.
You'd better go back to the sub and wait.
No.
These sort of scenes as an actor are very, very boring to shoot. You can't really talk, and you're just looking behind a mask, and I can't hear the sound as I speak.
Eureka. Main destruct timer under lever, right of ATEC housing, dueled by ring, main circuit through anti-handling charger. The destruct timer set at 1 minute. For some reason, the lever wasn't pulled. The transmitter with the thermite charge. Both these. To bypass trembler switch, cut wires in following procedure.
I admire those actors that sort of play surgeons in television series talking about well, we should cut through the central hoop and then turn the web with the aorta and up the thing and all those terrible technical words. Hell to learn. Screwdriver has become a dirty movie.
That's it. Let's get out of here.
You see, I think this is where John shows that he is very good with, as an editor, as a very, one of the top editors, that knowing exactly what do you need in a scene to tell a story that has very, very little dialogue. He's very good. It's telling the story in like frames of a cartoon. except they're all joined together and move.
I won't make it.
We both will. Get back to the sub fast. I'll stall him.
Needham, who had been a stunt director, a stuntman, with Burt Reynolds, and Burt wanted him to do Cannonball Run with Vera Fawcett Majors. Dean Martin, Jackie Chan. Oh my goodness me, there were so many people in it. Hal was great because I came back from having seen that film and I said, you know, this guy's got a wonderful technique. He's got 2 or 3 cameras, they're all set up very close to one another, and so you just shoot, you've got your close-up, you do your master, you've got your close-up, you don't. This is a great way of shooting, it's great speed. I'm lazy, I thought we could finish films quicker. Al Ruddy came to me and said, in California, and said, we've got this film, Cannonball Run, which we'd like you to do, and they explained a little about the film. And I said, well, you know, I can't play James Bond, I'm not allowed to play that character. It's, you know, first of all, I don't want to, and secondly, I wouldn't do it and upset Cubby. It's not on, it's not part of it. You don't take the mickey out of something you're making at that time. It was like Bond. It was really Bond. And I said, no, what I'd like to be, I said, I'd like to be, I want to be Jewish, and I want Molly Peakon to play my mother, and I want to be a guy who thinks that he's Roger Moore, not James Bond. He thinks he's Roger Moore. And this is, they just listened to what I said and they did it. And they came up and they got Molly Peakon. And I had all that dialogue. She says, why, you know, you got to act like this crazy guy, I'm Roger Moore. They had fun doing that. I don't think I've discussed it with Cubby. It was the Aston Martin, or one of the Aston Martins that had been used in the Sean Connery bombs, with the ejector seat. After I finished shooting in Las Vegas on it, they were picking up the stunt shots, and the guy was badly injured who was sitting next to me in the car. Her fiancé actually was driving, and he did not avoid the truck that was coming towards him. Very sad when those accidents happen. Awful, tragic. But I enjoyed that experience of Cannonball. And I shared a car going to locations sometimes with Dean. We lived close to one another in Beverly Hills at that time. Great character, Dean Martin. Lovely man. We never discussed Matt Helm. I remember Frank and Dean, sort of at the time that I made Live and Let Die, and they liked my clothes. They were by a tailor at that time, my first Bond film. I had a tailor called Cyril Castle. And both Frank and Dean and Sammy all had dinner suits made by Cyril. Frank said to me one day, he says, this doesn't lie very good on the collar. Collar comes back. I said, I forgot to tell you that Cyril is very good, but you have to watch the back of the collar, because you have to bend forward on your final fitting and say it's riding up. Everything else was perfect, but there is one scene in one of the Bond films when in a Cyril Castle suit where I leant forward and I look at that and I think, oh dear, Frank would never forgive me. And Dean, I remember they brought it up.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. You have saved us the trouble of disarming it. Apostles, take that.
Where are the men I left on board?
You will soon be joining them.
Let the girl go, Christatus.
We were talking about Cubby never talking about generous acts. Another person, they never discussed his generosity, was Frank Sinatra. I remember making a film with Lee J. Cobb, a film called Lucky Touch, and we were filming in London and in Brussels. And Lee said a number of years before he had had a heart attack, and he was in Cedars, and the nurse came and said, there's a call for you from Mr. Sinatra, who understands if you don't want to talk, it's fine. He said, no, speak to him. And he came on, Mr. Sinatra, and Frank says, don't want you to worry about the bills, kid. Everybody was kid to Frank. Don't worry about the bills. They're taken care of. And he said, but why? I don't know you. He said, I like your work.
Not yet.
Murder.
Frank knew that he was not a wealthy man. He did a lot of work, but wasn't getting stars money. That was the sort of thing Frank did that nobody knew about.
They'll make appetizing bait.
I didn't think it would end like this.
We're not dead yet.
Being dragged behind the boat with a paravan was actually in the original book of Live and Let Die, which was why Michael and Richard Maybaum wanted to take parts of Bond that had not been seen and give him the harder edge. This was how this came in.
Turn around, we go again.
Take a deep breath.
I never had the luxury or the pleasure of being in the Bahamas with a second unit. Some people get all the fun. Al Giddings was in charge of all of this. One of the excellent underwater cinematographers. I don't think the shark is hungry. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Once again, hurry!
And that's George Leach.
Leave him.
Leave him, nice.
Run them down.
Very nice. One less salary to pay.
Follow me.
One wouldn't know when you're underwater whether you're in the Bahamas or in the tank at Pinewood, except the tank at Pinewood's about 15 degrees colder.
The sharks have them. Make port.
Thank you.
Max, not now. Christatos is still alive.
When I read that the parrot would be giving us the lines, I thought, this will prove my skill. I will do it without breaking up. I will look serious and believe it. You know, if the hero believes it and the heroine believes it, the audience believe it. This scene actually was, when it was originally being written, was supposed to be Bernard Lee. Was M, but because Bernie, unfortunately, actually had died at this point. But he had insisted on shooting a test and shooting this scene because he was very nervous about his ability to remember lines.
I know a well-informed person to contact about that, Q.
Here we are now in Kalambaka, or Meteorus.
Where we used to hide from the Germans.
These are the extraordinary little monasteries that are built on top of pinnacles.
My friend, I've been studying this place for years for just such an occasion. We'll split here, huh? You best approach.
We did have one slight problem shooting this because we were shooting on one of the hilltops next to this pinnacle. The only way to get to the pinnacle is actually that they take their supplies up by rope and a basket. And when we started to shoot, we suddenly found they'd covered the roofs with plastic.
But we are only 5 men.
Because they didn't want us to shoot on them. And it had already been arranged and money had passed over, had changed hands, but it had not gone down to the people at the monastery. It was quite a scandal. So because the the monastery being covered with plastic, Peter Lamont was forced to reconstruct a lot of it in the studio for when we went back.
Privately, without distractions. I will be your audience.
What a drag that'll be. I want to win the gold medal.
We all want that.
I know what you want, but you're too old for me.
Jill, at the time we made this, was already very ill. She had cancer, and she needed work. She needed money, and Cubby, remembering her from Hell Below Zero, gave her this part. It wasn't the sort of thing that Cubby would talk about.
So young. You must have a sponsor. I'll find another one.
Go outside and check the guards. Let me know as soon as the helicopter arrives.
These are the sequences I hate. Being on the side of a mountain, I am not particularly happy in heights. And I was in charge of this sequence, and doubling me was Rick Sylvester, who was the man who skied off with the Union Jack parachute in The Spy Who Loved Me. A fearless sort of fellow. And here we come, one of John Glenn's pigeons. He owns pigeons, I think, and rents them out for movies. I suppose in the other type of Bond, in the earlier Bonds, Bond would have had all sorts of magic equipment from Q and would have jetted himself up a jetpack up there, or arrived there by helicopter or by parachute. But this time he does it for real. Climbing. I think they did it this way because they knew I hated heights. They wanted to punish me for taking too long in negotiations, I presume, which I didn't do, my agent did. You're a very silly boy. You mustn't do that. Bond is going to be very unhappy. Oh! What a stunt. Now, we had to reproduce that in the studio, and I came down about 4 feet. It's the most painful experience. Maybe my harness wasn't correct. I never did mountain climbing. I hate heights. In fact, I have no idea why they cast me as Bond. I don't like heights, I don't like explosions, I blink before guns go off. One of the things that I found very, very nerve-wracking about climbing the mountains when we were in Calambach or Meteoris was the thought, oh, tomorrow morning I've got to go up that mountainside again. I really don't like it. And to sleep, my doctor had given me some Valium, and I found that sort of half a Valium and a glass of beer made me quite fearless. I don't recommend that. Some people fall for anything. Oh, that's all right then. I think, oh, he's one of Costanza's car. Oh, that's all right. Not, oh, poor fella. Call an ambulance. This is a question of don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think one of the things that I remember about the circus leading up to the Bond premiere, that they would have hundreds from the world's press, and they would be set up 10 to a table in the restaurant of a giant hotel, and you would move, various cast members would move from table to table, invariably the same questions on each table, and do that all day. And then you have to do the TV interviews, and they probably set up 4 or 5 different rooms where they set up with their lights, and you move in different crews, and so you keep going from one room to the other, to the other, to the other. It's quite exhausting, and by the time you've put on your black tie and gone to the premiere, and you've stood in line and you've sat down, you've had to sit through yourself. That first drink after, when you get to the post-premiere party, is the best drink you're ever going to have. I mean, you finish making the movie, and you go on to something else. It comes as a terrible surprise when you sit down in the theatre and see the film. You say, oh, I said that. Oh, I wore that.
Only bad weather would delay him.
Maybe I have a short attention span, But I see many things and I do not remember them at all afterwards.
Cover the windows. Let's go.
He's all right, leave him.
Mina nesikhis.
This again now is Peter Lamont's reconstruction in the studio.
Okay, let's go. I'll be with you. Sorry.
Cover the door! Where's Christatus? And keep your voice down.
We are leaving him, but he must not know until we are gone.
All right, we'll help you if you help us.
Ja, mein Herr Bonn. Ja, komm.
Where are the guards?
I saw a reasonable amount of Cubby and Dana after Cubby was taken ill. And he adored her, and she him. Dana was a great influence on the Bond films with Cubby. Cubby respected her opinion, and opinion was usually very right. I liked her very much. She was a beautiful woman. And again, a very, very sad passing.
Move.
Yeah, I remember Dana wrote a very interesting Florinda, which was made into a musical.
You better stay here.
And then, of course, she was very much involved in presenting Chitty Chitty Bang Bang on stage. And I'm very grateful to Dana and to Barbara Michael that they gave one of the openings to UNICEF. And we had a very good fundraising evening. And Mumu Fayed, Harrods, gave us the facilities to have dinner and supplied dinner and wine for nothing afterwards. It was a very good evening. I remember I spoke to Dodie just a few days before he was killed. Dodie was a friend of all of us, of Cubby's and Dana and Barbara and my children. And I was having dinner with his aunt in Monaco on their boat, and Dodie called, as he usually did every day, called Adriana. And I remember I jokingly said, "So what's new, Dodie?" I mean, at that time it was front page news every day.
Where's Christatos?
He's left with the ATAC.
You're going to pay for it! No, you're not as fast as you used to be.
We go back to being serious and Bond, reminding about digging two graves, the Chinese proverb. If I had to be remembered of one of these two Bonds, of Moonraker or For Your Eyes Only, I find that a very difficult question to answer, but I probably would say the last one I saw, For Your Eyes Only, purely because I think I looked in better shape than I did in the other one. If you're going to be remembered for something. I think this is an interesting point that they made here, that although the wall hadn't come down yet, we were maybe moving towards détente. And maybe Cubby and Michael were trying to say it was something that was going to happen, it should happen. A little bit of forward thinking. We were all after this one thing, and it went. No hard feelings.
Well, seems though BB has a new sponsor.
Well, how's it going?
But I've paged through a high security line to the satellite.
I think that after a tense moment, you need something to break the ice. And if it's a bad line, then it's going to get the wrong laugh. So you might just as well go for something that is played for laughs. And this is played for laughs. Again, Carol smiled. Second time of the movie.
Bond! Bond, are you there? Bond!
For your eyes only, darling.
Bond! 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 Bond!
He's there.
That's in the Prime Minister.
I'll get it, Dennis. Hello?
Janet Brown. A wonderful Mrs. Thatcher.
Mr. Bond. I wanted to call you personally and to say how pleased we all are that your mission was a success. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Don't thank me, Mr. Bond. Your courage and resourcefulness are a credit to the nation. Dennis and I look forward to meeting you. Meanwhile, if there is anything I can do for you...
Now that Margaret Thatcher was running the country, it seemed that it was easier for the film industry to think about being back in London and filming. Because people who have a normal job, and they're taxed every year, and they're taxed on their income, but their income is going to go on for 30 or 40 years. Maybe a rise every year, and they might pay a little more tax every year. But with an actor, with an entertainer, singers, our lives can be very short in terms of the period during which you can make a little money. But they don't let you spread your income over your lifetime and tax it. It's all taxed there and then. And the same with the film industry. This one big tax that was hurting very much the British film industry. And it was relieved somewhat at the point that we made this movie. I think it was a very different Bond to the Bonds we'd had up to now, or that I had done. I think some of the action scenes, or all of the action scenes, were spectacular. I missed a lot of the comedy, although I think at the end of the film you probably say, oh, that was funny having Margaret Thatcher do that, and forget that there weren't as many laughs as the normal Bond, or the normal Bond that I made. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching the film and the commentary, if you listen to the commentary, and thank you for doing so, and I'll be back in the next Bond, if you've bought the DVD.